I wonder if you've ever had the feeling that something is shifting, even before you realize it's happening. It's almost like when you start thinking about how a thought begins, and the moment you try to trace it back, you realize you're already ahead of where you thought you were. And maybe, just maybe, you don't even have to keep up. Because sometimes, when you try to focus on one thing, you notice something else, and by the time you go back to where you started, something has already changed. Isn't it strange how you can remember something and yet forget it at the same time? Like when you try to recall a dream, and for a moment it's there, right on the edge of your awareness. But the more you try to hold on to it, the more it slips away. But then, when you stop trying, it comes back in the way that thoughts sometimes do when they're ready. And you might start to notice that you're already listening, even before you think about listening. And perhaps there's a part of you that is already responding, even before you realize it has. Because the mind is fascinating, isn't it? The way it can hold on to something while letting it go at the same time. The way you can be aware of my voice and yet also aware of the spaces between the words. And maybe, just maybe, that's where something interesting happens. Because the more you try to find where this thought is leading, the more you realize you don't really need to find it at all. Maybe it's already here, already happening, even as you wonder whether you're still following it or whether it's following you. And as your mind drifts between understanding and something just beyond understanding, you might start to wonder if you've already entered a different state of awareness, or if it's still happening right now. And I wonder if you've noticed how easy it is to simply allow yourself to settle into this moment without needing to try, without needing to do anything at all, except just be here. And as that awareness deepens, as it shifts, as it expands, perhaps you'll notice a part of you sinking into something familiar, something that has been waiting for you all along. You know, there was once a man who wandered deep into the forest. He had lost his way, though at first he didn't quite realize it. He had set out on this path, thinking it was the right one, believing that if he walked long enough, he would find what he was looking for, whatever that was. At first, he followed familiar signs, the way the trees bent, the patterns of the wind, the distant sound of a river. He was sure, absolutely sure, that he was headed in the right direction. But after a while, something began to feel different. The air grew heavier, the trees less familiar. He checked his surroundings, retraced his steps, but nothing quite looked the way he remembered. And that's when he started to feel it, that slow, creeping tension, the realization that he might be lost. It was subtle at first, just a whisper of doubt, but the more he walked, the more that feeling grew. Still, he kept going, determined to find his way back. Except the more he resisted the truth that he was lost, the harder it became to see clearly. The more he fought against the reality of his situation, the deeper into the forest he seemed to go. And then, something interesting happened. He stopped. For the first time in hours, he simply stopped walking. He sat down at the base of a tree, feeling the earth beneath him, listening, not just to his own thoughts, but to everything around him. And in that stillness, he noticed something: the sound of birds, the rustling of leaves, and just beyond that, the faintest sound of running water. He had spent so much time pushing forward, resisting the idea that he was lost, that he hadn't even noticed what was around him. But when he stopped fighting, when he simply sat with it, clarity began to return. And as he listened more deeply, he realized the river had always been there, guiding him back. Maybe it had been there all along. And I wonder if there's something about that story that resonates with you. Because sometimes, when we're caught up in the unfairness of it all, when we hold on to the feeling that things should have been different, we get so lost in trying to force our way through that we don't realize clarity was waiting for us all along. And as you hear these words, as you allow yourself to settle in, I wonder, what happens when you stop fighting against the way things are and start listening to what has been there all along? You know, sometimes when life feels so unfair, there's this feeling that you've done everything right, or at least you thought you had, and yet things still don't seem to go the way you expect. And it might leave you wondering why. Why does it feel so difficult, and sometimes even impossible, to make sense of it all? You might think, I've worked hard for what I have, and yet, why does it feel like it's all slipping away? And there's that sneaky little voice in your head, isn't there? That voice that says, you deserve better, or this isn't fair. And sometimes that voice feels like it's talking so loud, and yet, what if that voice is a little bit misled? Because you see, when we expect the world to be a certain way, and life doesn't match that, it can feel like you've been wronged, and that can hurt, can't it? And you might wonder, why bother trying when it feels like the universe itself is against you? Even though, in the back of your mind, you know that you've worked hard, and you're a good person, a nice guy, a genuinely good guy, you may still feel as though something is wrong, something isn't right, and you've been dealt this unfair hand. And maybe it seems like there's a part of you that just doesn't want to let go of that anger, doesn't want to forgive. And yet, if you allow yourself to truly pause, just for a moment, you might find that holding on to that anger, maybe it's not giving you the relief you expect. Maybe, just maybe, it's only feeding the part of you that isn't ready to let go, isn't it? And when you think of the person who betrayed you and the pain it caused, there's that tightness in your chest, isn't there? That feeling of being cheated, taken advantage of. And how do you make sense of all that when the person you trusted most let you down? But then you realize the anger itself, the resentment you carry, is simply holding on to something that no longer serves you. What if all this cynicism, all this apathy, all this resentment, it's been trying to protect you, and now it's outlived its usefulness? What if, instead of carrying it, you could simply notice that it's there, without needing to hold on to it or fight against it? What if, by letting go of some of the anger, just a little bit, you can start to feel a sense of relief that you didn't think was possible. And in that moment, just that moment, maybe you realize it's possible to start freeing yourself from the weight of all that without needing to have everything figured out. Because the more you try to control it, the more it controls you, doesn't it? And now, imagine that you could start to shift that feeling ever so slightly, and maybe it doesn't happen all at once, but just enough to feel the tiniest hint of relief, because you deserve to feel that, to let go, bit by bit, without needing to know how it's happening. And it's okay. It's more than okay. It's actually a step forward, without even knowing you're taking it. You don't have to understand everything right now, or even try to make it all make sense. But what if, in this moment, you can simply let go of the need to hold on so tightly to the anger, or the sense of being wronged? What if, just for now, it could start to feel just a little lighter? And what if that could happen without effort, without struggle, just a simple release? And perhaps you'll begin to notice over time that the weight doesn't feel so heavy anymore. Maybe it's already starting to fade, and you're left with more space, more clarity, a new way of being that feels right for you, without all the old baggage. And as these shifts begin to take root within you, weaving their way into your thoughts, emotions, and experiences, you may start to notice subtle yet profound changes in the coming days, weeks, and months. These changes may be gentle at first, like a soft breeze stirring the leaves, or they may arrive suddenly, like the break of dawn after a long night. Perhaps you'll wake up one morning feeling just a little lighter, as though a burden you had been carrying has quietly loosened its grip. Or maybe, in a moment of reflection, you'll realize that a thought that once triggered frustration or pain now simply drifts past, like a cloud in the vast sky of your awareness. And just as the mind transforms, so too might your dreams. Over the coming nights, you may find yourself dreaming of wide, open spaces, of clear skies, flowing rivers, or warm, golden light, symbols of the freedom that is beginning to take root within you. Perhaps you will see yourself stepping through an open door, crossing a threshold, or standing at the edge of a vast landscape, feeling the wind on your face, a sign that new possibilities are unfolding. And in the waking world, you may begin to notice small yet meaningful signs. A conversation that resonates deeply, an unexpected act of kindness, a moment of peace in the midst of chaos. These moments are whispers of confirmation, quiet reassurances from the universe that the weight you once carried is slowly dissolving, that you are freeing yourself step by step, breath by breath. And as these positive changes continue to settle within you, let us also take a moment to reflect on the merit and positive energy we have cultivated here today. Merit, in this context, is the positive energy and wisdom generated through our effort, our focus, and our intention. May it now flow outward, beyond ourselves, to benefit all beings. Take a deep breath in, and with each exhale, imagine this positive energy radiating outward like ripples in a vast ocean. May this merit reach those who are suffering, bringing relief and hope. May it touch those in pain, offering healing and comfort. May it ease the burdens of those who are grieving and bring clarity to those in confusion or fear. May the positive energy we've cultivated serve as a source of strength, peace, and joy for all beings, seen and unseen, near and far. And as this energy flows, may it inspire acts of kindness, compassion, and understanding. May we carry this intention forward, using the merit we've generated to bring love, wisdom, and service into the world. Let us dedicate this merit freely, knowing it has the power to ripple through time and space, touching lives wherever it is needed most. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from suffering. May all beings find peace. Take one more deep breath, and as you exhale, feel this energy expanding infinitely, sharing the benefits of this practice with the world. And now, it is time to return to the here and now, bringing with you a renewed sense of clarity, lightness, and ease. Becoming aware of the surface beneath you, the rhythm of your breath, the sounds around you. And when you are ready, slowly, gently, returning fully, present, awake, and deeply at peace.